Hello everybody, this is Havoc and welcome back to our tutorial series, Humankind, a tutorial for absolute beginners. As I mentioned in the last episode, this is episode 6 by the way, that I would start skipping around to important parts that I haven't yet covered to kind of give you an idea on early game progression, and then as the things continue to really start building on more smaller specific aspects that I think a tutorial series would benefit from. So in today's episode, we are going to focus solely on warfare and declaring war, waging battles, and figuring out the whole idea of war support. As always, before we begin though, if at any point in the video you do enjoy what you are seeing, you can give it a thumbs up. You can subscribe to the channel because this is not going to be the end of Humankind content, and you can turn on bell notifications. Lastly, if you are on this episode 6 and still haven't bought Humankind, you should totally do it because clearly you are enjoying what you're seeing. And if you haven't, then you can via my Nexus GG game store, link in the description. So as we have progressed along, I have built up an army, I've done some research, and as we started gathering on the borders and a preparation for war as it was, as we can see here, I'm listening. Our relationship is deteriorating in all the worst ways. As we approached the border, we were met by this army right here, made up of a couple of warriors and a couple of runners, which are the Hairpin's emblematic units and just an upgraded, essentially, scout. Now we do have reinforcements research, which is good for us because that means not only do we get the army to defend in, but we actually have 2 sets of other armies attacking. Now we are actually defending, so we will bring in the reinforcements in this battle. As you can see, our side is stronger overall. If we zoom out, we can see, there we go, that we have 161 combat strength to their 66. We are going to go with the manual battle, and as you can see at the typical setup, we have a lot of things that we can push. Now, one thing to remember with the chariots especially is that we actually get a combat strength bonus if we are attacking non-adjacent enemies. So it's not going to be the best thing to put them right on the border because we don't know where they are, for one. We don't know where the units are, but also we can figure out where they are so that way we can gain a bigger bonus. I'm going to place my archers on the rivers, even though that's not necessarily the best idea. It is going to allow us to see, and I would rather have archers be on the river tile and get that combat strength reduction than my other units. This is just simply how it has to be with the warrior. I'm not okay with it, but there's not much else that we can do. I don't want to make my archers vulnerable, and I also don't want to jeopardize the Zhongji. So we are going to end deployment. You can see they have 4 units. There's only 4 places they can go. They will all be lined up there, and we are defending, so we get an automatic defense bonus. But you can see that that still hurts quite a bit. Yeah, hurts quite a bit. I don't approve of it. But what we can do, you can also see now, is that we can come in and charge. I actually didn't see this other Zhongji. If we were to go here, we could see everything that we could bring in. I don't want to bring in scouts. Obviously, they're not going to be fantastic units. I am going to go ahead and bring in the absolute beginners, the warrior, way over here. And then I'm going to bring in my other guy right here. Honestly, I probably won't even bring in the scouts because it's just not worth it. Now, obviously, we also want to kind of hit where it would hurt the most. And therefore, we want to, you can see here, we get a charge bonus of 3 combat strength, which is pretty massive in the early game. Combined with the friendly units and the crossing river, we actually are overpowering them by 11 combat strength. That is quite a bit. But we can whittle him down even more if we want to. See, that's not quite enough for a 1-hit kill. By goodness gracious, this probably is. There we go. You can see that X means it's a guaranteed kill. There we go. Now I can't move this unit again, but that's okay because we can move this unit to help cover our tails if we wanted to. Now another thing we can do, again, your archers do not need a direct line of sight. So there can be a unit or trees or something in front of them and they can shoot over it. And you can see that buff. We only get a small reduction. Actually, it's a pretty massive reduction from no line of sight, but it is still possible. So we can do this. Cuts them pretty daggum hard, and then my warriors will finish them off. Now, it is typically a smart move if your frontline units, if you don't have a huge advantage, as we do not here, it's going to be best to simply let them stay right there. You also remember, we do have another unit back here that we are going to employ and put right there, and good. We can hit this. Now, this will save our archers. Unfortunately, it also means that we can't attack just right now. But that's okay. And we are still going to defend, because once we do that, we'll get a buff. We can see it was at 16. It's now at 18 from defending, and it's just going to be harder for them to take it on. This is a very, very simple battle. It's a very simple battle. We're going to move up so that way I can have an adjacency to these units over here. And as I mentioned, we can whittle them down little bit by little bit. And again, it's just a matter of focusing and figuring out what units are going to be best killing what. So I didn't need to use those archers on this last guy, because I can hit those runners and then hit them again with my other units to just simply overwhelm them. Now, that was a very condensed, very quick battle. I hope everything made sense there, because that, again, it was very, very quick. But I feel it's a relatively simple manner of just figuring out where to take advantage, to always try and flank, and then to know when to defend versus when not to. Now, one thing I did want to mention is that this army, the mercenary, we hired them for 100 buckaroonies a few turns ago, gave us a free warrior. Well, not free, one we don't have to worry about population wise. So these guys are expendable, but I want to try to keep them for the war ahead, because we will be able to push this. Now, we already have 2 demands, and you can see our war support is up here. One thing we have to consider before we declare war, or before we even push demands, any demands that you push will be enforced at the end of a war if you win. When the war ends, they will be forced to give us Precipua and 400 gold. Now, if there's any remaining war score left, we can do things like take their territories, take their cities even, or potentially vassalize them. As for me, in this playthrough, my goal is to wipe the Hairpins out. I don't want to risk them coming back and potentially wrecking me. I doubt it'll happen, but you just never know. And so we can see up here our war score. We have plus 13 because we triggered a grievance, we had a recent battle victory, and we have 3 demands going up. They went down because they lost a battle. Now, we are not at war. We are still technically at peace, but we do have tolerate skirmishes, why that event occurred. Now, if we were to declare war, we couldn't do it just yet. We need to wait until one more turn passes. But once we do, it will then be our objective to take them down and whittle down their war score by taking their cities and by winning battles. Now, their capital is all the way down here. We have to get all of our armies down to here to whittle it down. Now, again, it won't happen until the next turn. And in fact, I'm going to wait until our armies get down here before even declaring war. If we were to declare war before we got down there, we would lose at 3. We would lose war support at -3 per turn because we declared war. It's on us to keep that up. So we don't want to do that until we are ready. And again, just knowing that this is their only city, simply because we don't see any other indication otherwise, is going to mean that we need to just hang around, and we need to work on taking them out. Now, one thing I am going to do is, again, we're going to use these guys to increase the population of Fengao. We're going to bring in our other warriors and be good that way. So what I'm also going to do is we are going to level up. There's not much that we can build here anymore, which is not true. There are a few things we can build here. This isn't so important that I feel is necessary to be a part of. And unfortunately, we aren't going to be able to build anywhere else. Yeah, see, that one isn't good. There's no other mountains over here that we can take advantage of. And there's no way that I'm going to have enough influence to integrate another one of these territories. And in fact, there's not even going to be enough to make a new city. So we aren't going to worry about, we're going to move this up because one thing I forgot to mention is that if you build an emblematic building or in the process of actually building it, then you level up, you will then still be able to build that emblematic building, but it'll immediately be not available for any others. So we want to wait one turn to get that functioning and rolling before we do anything else. And we're also going to hang around just for a little bit longer because we have so many stars potentials right here. Now we are miles ahead, but this is one of those deals where I would hang behind just so I can get a little extra money or a little extra expansion stars, etc., etc. We can get these two. We are very close to these two. Now we can see that a lot of the places have been taken. And in fact, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, all but one of the other civilizations have leveled. So one of the benefits of a smaller map is that you do get a larger benefit to different cultures. You have more availability because they'll never all be taken. So it even gives you a more incentive to hang back a little bit. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to wait a turn for Fangal to work its thing out. I'm then going to choose the Carthaginians because I have a lot of coastal areas, which the Cothan will take advantage of. And then we will meet you again. I will meet you again when I'm ready to declare war on the Harapins. See you in a minute. All right, ladies and gentlemen, we are on the verge. As soon as I level up, we will essentially declare war on the Harapins. But I did want to justify my reason for choosing the Carthaginians. As I mentioned, I have a lot of coastal tiles, which is a very big positive thing. We are going to have to use ocean power in this playthrough to expand and expand quickly to basically compete. So we can see here the Carthaginians have a minus 25% buyout cost for all constructibles. Those are things like your horse barn stalls or your millworks, etc., that give bonuses to your districts, your tiles, or your pops. So that's pretty good. That's pretty good, especially since the Cothan is going to really, really help you a whole bunch. The Cothan, I think, is still probably one of the most overpowered ancient era things in the game, or excuse me, classical era, because it gives you district fortification. So if someone were to attack, you would be able to defend. It gives you 3 industry per adjacent coastal water, which means if you have a situation where a Cothan has 5 tiles around it, that's 15 industry just from the Cothan itself. It replaces a harbor, but it also counts as a farmer's market, as a market quarter, and a maker quarter. Excuse me, a farmer's quarter, a market quarter, and a maker's quarter. That means anything that buffs those 3 quarters will also buff this Cothan. This Cothan is the emblematic building, which means you can build every single territory. That's a lot. So if we had 7 different territories in one of our cities, we could build 7 Cothans and take advantage of all that. You see the benefit of this building. I always recommend going Carthaginians if you have any sort of a water map, simply because of this building. And then lastly, a war elephant. We need 2 copper and mounted warfare. Don't know where we're going to get the other copper yet, but it is still something that could be viable, and the war elephant is a massive heavy cavalry unit. All right, it is time to declare war.
You are the last person I want to see.
He's not very happy. And so again, when we declare war, we are pushing these demands. So when this war is over with, and hopefully we'll be successful, they will have to pay $400 plus give Precupia, which is the territory, and then whatever else we can squeeze out of. Declaring war, you can do it through simple measures. We are going to do it by crossing the border. You see trade routes are destroyed. Nothing great happens in the initial phase, but we are essentially saying, hey, this is what we're doing. We have made the official declaration, and if we will go to here.
You bring war on yourself, war. Do you understand what that means? Bottom feeder, you challenge me?
We can see now that we are decreasing by 3 every turn. This is a typical thing. It decreases more if we lose a battle or if we were to lose a city. It increases if we capture a city or if we win a battle. Now, by default, they do get a +10 at the very beginning because we broke a treaty. We still had treaties going on. So it's unfortunate, but we'll be able to decrease it rather quickly. We're going to end the turn. I'll see you back on the battlefield. One last turn for this hunting party to get in, and then we will definitely be able to push it. We're going to skip the turn. In the turn, we gain population. Fantastic. we can finally get into this. Now, this is a bit overkill for a simple capital this early in the game. You can see they only have a 52 combat strength city. We have 168, but you know what? What better way than to ensure that we will get victory? So we can see here they're defenders. They have 3 units of levies. Gives them 13 combat strength each, but their palisade is definitely going to be tough to beat. And I can tell you right now that if we could totally build some siege equipment and it would make things go a little bit easier, just take a little bit of a while. But if you're going to siege a city and then just immediately assault it, prepare for a tough battle because the levies get quite the buffs. They get quite the buffs. And another thing that's important to note is that as a heavy cav unit, they are unable to climb fortifications, which means we actually do not get the ability to go through walls, even if it gets captured. Only if it gets knocked down can we do that. So unfortunately, we are also going to have a couple of archers on the front line. That's just how it is. We are going to end the deployment. I'm going to show you what I mean. This levy unit has 15. He actually gets a lot more than that. So he has a base combat strength of 13. He gets +6 from fortifications. Again, those fortifications are pretty intense. He gets 4 from a building cover, and he gets 2 from defending. So this basic 13 strength combat unit will now get 25 combat strength, and therefore makes him very, very hard to kill. Just straight up, that's just how it goes. Now, he is the only unit inside of the walls. These guys, they just get friendly units and defending buffs. That's it. So that makes them much, much more vulnerable. And as such, we are going to kind of tank those units just a little bit. And then I am going to deploy a warrior here. No, it will just be 1. But we are then going to get this guy to charge in. And he will have almost double the combat strength of this poor little levy unit. So again, taking advantage of any units on the outside of the walls is always going to be the best solution. And then again, knowing when to defend and when to not defend. In this case, I am going to try and hurt this unit as much as possible, which will also end our turn. That hurt quite a bit. All right, well, that was a bit unfortunate. However, we can still take advantage of this situation pretty easily. We're gonna move this chariot because remember, we get more benefits if we attack an existing or a non-adjacent target. So you can see here, I moved back, and because of that, we then get over double the combat strength, which is going to be a one-shot kill. Now that also opens up this tile, which means we can bring this warrior in, and now I have a huge buff on 2 sides to the combat strength of these warriors. We can see here, even with all of his buffs, he only gets 22 now, and then this warrior will get buffs from high ground, buffs from the rear attack, and buffs from friendly units. But more than that, because we are attacking with our ranged units first to soften up the enemy, we can see that we will win completely. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is how you capture a city. Cultural conversion has started, which means we are starting to now take over. Also, if we take a look,
You are the last person I want to see.
they are going to have -12 every single turn, -5 from the lack of a capital, -4 from a city being occupied by us, and then they now get low stability because they don't have a capital. So they are going to probably capitulate in the next turn because they actually don't have a thing. There's an army up here that they could go after us with, but I don't know if they will. There's also an army here. So hopefully in the next turn, we may see just an end to the war, which would be probably the shortest war I've ever had in my time playing Humankind. And then we're gonna have to wipe out these other 2 units to make sure that they are extinct forever. Now what we can do though, is we can potentially build an extractor anywhere where we haven't built one yet. Have I built extractors on everything? Have not. We can build one on salt. Fantastic, giving us a ton of food. I like it. I like it. We have an event here, a schism in the heart. I'm not going to worry about that for now. We're going to see what happens whenever we hit the intern. All right, we got trade expeditions research, which is important for us because that means our units can now traverse the seas, and the Celts are about to lose their war support. One thing to mention is that when you take a city, it will of course have some stability issues in the moment. That will happen as the war continues. I haven't ever seen it result in a rebellion while you are occupying it as the attacker, but it could happen. But what you're going to end up seeing is that once the war is over, that stability, if we choose to take this city, will start skyrocketing it at +5 per turn. If we look here, okay, yeah, see, they have nothing else, so it does bring their war support all the way down. And here is what your surrender terms look like. So we have 226 war support left. We have expended 30 of that, pushing the demands. So that means right now, if we did nothing else, they would pay us 400 bucks. They would give us Precupia, which is the territory, and they would give us 2,260 gold as reparation. The more we demand from them, the less that gold goes down. But you can see I can take everything of theirs, everything, and still have some money left over. So we are actually going to do that. So we will get 1,000 gold and we will take everything from them, and they have to accept it. So we now have 1,394 gold. We have a brand new city, which puts us over our city cap, and we just suffer 10 influence a turn. That's it. The best part is that I have a research tech already in the queue, which will boost our city cap, meaning here in just a handful of turns, we'll already get that city cap back. Now, again, I mentioned we need to make sure that these guys do not ever see the light of day again, so we make sure they are not a nuisance. So I will start hunting them down, and I will show you what happens once we do that when I return. All right, ladies and gentlemen, we are down to the last 2 units of the Hairpins, as far as I know. We are going to auto-resolve both. This does give us a militarist star on top of everything. Oh, goodness. And then I do believe the last one's hiding right here. Awesome. Instantly resolved. That's a piece of cake. And it is not the last of them. Oh, they've taken another city. Well, guys, that will be the end of the episode. I wanted to just focus on warfare for this one, but to show you what it looks like, what it takes to achieve victory, what a siege looks like for you, and we will eventually take on the Hairpins, or now the Celts. Again, I assure you. And who knows, maybe by the next time you see, we will have taken over everything. You never know. Guys, thank you so much for hanging out with me today. I hope you enjoyed the much shorter format along with this. Let me know what else you'd like to see, honestly, because not that I'm running out of ideas, but I don't know exactly what else you really need to know about. In the next episode, I am considering focusing on some synergies and some more different methodologies to increase your things like your money revenue or your research generation, things of that nature, ways that you can optimize some of the parts of your empire. That's my goal, unless you guys have something wildly drastically different. But let me know in the comment section down below. But guys, if at any point you enjoyed the video, be sure to give it a thumbs up, be sure to sub to the channel, turn on bell notifications. You at any time can purchase Humankind using the Nexus Game Store link, and of course be on the lookout soon as I look to tackle my first campaigns so we can really start exploring what all Humankind post-release has for us. Thank you guys so much for hanging out with me today. This is Havoc, and I'll see you later.